Alright guys, welcome back to Elden Ring. We're starting off here in the Liurnia of the Lakes at the foot of the Four Belfries site of Grace. We're going to make a few markers, one right here. This is where the dragon is, but we want to come over here and mark one right there. That's going to be a cave that we're going to go into after we kill the dragon, which we're going to kill first. I'm going to place a marker right here because that's where we're going to do our buffs. And for our dragon killing setup, it's the same as before. We're going to use the Uchi Katana. If you so desire, you can use the Nagakiba, which is a much longer katana. And it might be better, actually. I think I'm going to switch to that later. But for now, we're just going to use the regular Uchi Katana. Of course, we're going to use the Lance Talisman, because we're going to be on horseback. The Blood Exaltation Talisman. And we're going to use the Green Turtle Talisman. Stamina is always important when you're doing these dragon fights. And of course, Dragon Wound Grease. We're going to use all of these Dragon Wound Greases for every dragon encounter. This is definitely the ideal setup for killing dragons because you're doing the damage to dragons in three different ways. You're doing bleed damage, you're doing extra damage off of horseback, and you're doing extra damage from the Dragon Wound Grease. Now later on, there is a katana that will give you the effect of Dragon Wound Grease passively. The only problem is it doesn't do bleed. It's the only katana that doesn't do bleed damage. So it's a trade-off. So I'm always going to pick the Dragon Wound Grease regardless. Now if you remember, this is the dragon that is guarding the Academy Glintstone key that we had collected much earlier in the walkthrough. But now we're going to kill him. So we're just going to get off of our horse here. We're going to start buffing right here. Golden Vow, Howl of Shibiri. And when using Howl of Shibiri, you can't be too close to the enemy because it does alert them. So you have to pick your spots wisely when buffing. We're going to put on some extra stamina as well. And the same concept as before. You're just going to keep wailing on the legs. When the camera changes, that means the dragon's about to attack and you just need to get away. I'll tell you when that happens. Once you get the hang of it, you'll see how easy these dragon fights are. You see where I just went away there? Because the camera changed. And a lot of times you can just bait them out for their breath attacks. And it'll be over before it even begins. And that's it. Now we're going to head into that cave that we marked earlier. Because after you finish this cave, it will take you into an inaccessible area of Lucaria, and our objective in this episode is to loot the entirety of Lucaria Academy. So we have to go through here if we want to get the loot that's after the boss fight. So it's going to take 2 Stone Sword keys to unlock this area. But you get a really good sorcery spell in here that we might use because it will increase damage by magic attacks by 45% while you're inside the ring. Now this cave is extremely short and extremely easy, but of course we're going to do it strategically. So let's go ahead and get our setup started here. We're going to mix in our strength tier just because we're using the cestus at the boss. Not necessary, but why not? For our talismans, we're going to be using both arrow talismans. We're just going to have our basic whip because we're only going to be using it for rats. We need the jar cannon and the cestus. The cestus is for the boss. And the beast torch for the rats. The only enemies in this cave are a few rats, glintstone sorcerers, and one particularly annoying sorcerer that's a bit tanky. So we'll deal with him accordingly. But we're going to get our beast torch out first because the rats are the first thing you're going to encounter here. One lone rat here. And just 2 right here. And the next encounter is going to be your sorcerers. So we're going to get our jar cannon out. And you don't want to go too far. So if you stay at the entrance to this cave here, you can snipe the first guy on the right without alerting the others. There's one more right here before we're going to deal with the group over there. It's a group of 3. Now sometimes one of the sorcerers will come to you. That's what you want though, because then you can snipe and get a 2-for-1. But if you don't aim too far to the right here, you'll miss. As you can see, it hit the geometry. Now for this annoying sorcerer. He's annoying because you can't really get line of sight on him. He's in the dark. I've tried to find the right spot and snipe him, but it just isn't been consistent enough. So best way is to come over here and just throw a few volcano pots over this structure. Once you get the right angle, you'll start causing damage to him. It only takes a few throws once you get the right angle right there. And once he's dead, you'll be able to go to this area off to the left and loot a stone sword key. Now the next area is filled with sorcerers, and one particularly tanky sorcerer that's going to take 2 shots from our jar cannon to take out. And then we'll just have the boss. So what you want to do is, as soon as you open the door, don't even go through the door, just wait at the door and snipe the sorcerer that's walking away from us. Now for the tanky sorcerer. He's standing at the door. All you have to do is shoot him twice. Just lock on and shoot him twice. Now there's one more sorcerer in this area, and he can kind of get the drop on you if you're not careful, but we're going to show you exactly where he is. Just walk over here to this wall, turn around. Don't go through the door, and you can kind of make him out right there. And that's it. Area clear. Now the only thing that remains are the 2 crystallians at the end. And our Cestus will make short work of them. That is definitely their kryptonite. We're going to buff as usual, of course. We don't need the jar cannon, so let's go ahead and offload that. And we're going to go ahead and put our axe talisman on for extra damage, and our dagger talisman because we are going to be doing critical damage to them. And of course, we're just going to buff for overkill purposes. There are only 2 of them this time. I would use the statues for cover if the sorcerer starts firing at you. Now what you want to do is draw the spear guy over to you so you can use that opportunity to come over to the sorcerer. Wait till he spins. After they spin, they're wide open to a critical attack. So just go ahead and backstab and they'll be done. And a lot of times they'll just stand there and let you backstab them for some reason. And just follow up with a ground pound and it's over. Easy peasy. You'll just have to take the lift up to where we're going to get the Terra Magica spell. Like I said before, this causes a sigil to appear on the ground, and within this sigil you will be able to cause extra magic damage. I believe it's 45% extra magic damage. And because we have the glintstone Chris now, that counts as magic damage, so we could use this to our advantage in the future. And we are going to buff the glintstone Chris even further at the very end of this episode by doing Seluvis' quest. A lot of people miss out on the magic scorpion talisman because they go too far into Ranni's quest and it becomes inaccessible. Once you get the Finger Slayer blade and you talk to Ranni, it's over with, he dies. So you need to do Seluvis' quest first, which we are going to finish at the end of this episode. Now that we have done that, we're going to go back into the academy, but we're going to do the outskirts because we never did the outskirts. We're going to collect a golden seed and a cookbook along the way, and a shield, which we're not going to use, but it is part of the loot. Now I'm just making 3 markers here for our next 3 destinations, and we want to go to the Academy Gate Town site of Grace. Upon arrival, we're going to go ahead and sit at the Grace so that we can change our physics flask. We want our fire damage back, so we're going to use strength and fire as usual. Now I'm going to show you guys how to get the maximum use out of your glintstone Chris dagger that we got in the last episode that I was bragging about, and you'll see why, because we're going to use it extensively in this episode. So we want that, and we want to have the sacrificial axe in our offhand. For talismans, there are 3 of them that we're going to use to maximize the potential for this weapon. The first thing we want is the Filigree Crest. We want the Godfrey icon and the Ancestral Spirit's Horn. This will give us FP back for every use, and it will minimize our FP use. And with the Godfrey icon, it will cause more damage because it's a charged skill. So we're maximizing our damage with this weapon, and it's only at +6 right now. Bear that in mind. Also, it scales with intelligence, and we don't have our intelligence that high right now. So you can make this thing even more potent as you play. Let's go ahead and go over here and dismount. And there's some Albinarics we're going to test this Glintstone Chris on. You can just charge it up and just wait till it releases. And you can see it one-shots everything pretty much right now. And we're getting FP back for every use. There are 2 more up there that we're just going to wait until they come to the left. And we'll just snipe them as well. This will also help with our ammo consumption. Instead of using bolts, we can just use this to save on ammo. Of course, it's not going to be used for every situation. And over here is our cookbook. Now we're going to go get a golden seed that we didn't get before. So that next marker, we're just going to go towards it. We've already placed the markers for all of our spots. The more flasks you upgrade, the more seeds it takes to get to the next upgrade. Now we're going to head to our 3rd and final marker here. Now I'm doing a little cheekiness here. I found a little strategic way of taking out all these enemies without taking any damage, but you don't have to do it this way. But it's just something I discovered. You want to come over here, jump up here. It's a little tricky. You want to make a jump over here, do a double jump. Now this is the tricky part. Jump over here and then hug this wall and wait and just walk slowly until you get a little lift right there. You can see the little lift. This will allow you to get up top onto the rooftops. It's pretty easy to do. It's not that hard really. It's just hard to dismount. As you can see, I'm really struggling to dismount here. But once you do manage it, we're going to get our fire damage out because we're going to be using our volcano pots here. So we want the jellyfish shield. And we're going to use our physics flask that we just changed at the side of grace. And we're going to buff on top of that. We just want all the enemies to die almost instantly when we throw the pot. That's why we're doing all this. Of course, you don't have to do it this way. These enemies are fodder at this stage of the game for us. This is just a way I found to take 0 to minimal damage. You can just chunk it right over the rooftops and they'll die pretty much instantly. There's a few more over here. And there's 2 more in the distance, and you can kind of aim your pots. And that's it. They're all dead. There's 1 more guy at the top of the stairs there before entering the next area. We're just going to get on Torrent again. I'm going to jump over here. There's some arrows of some description here, and they are a pain to get. You can try jumping onto this ledge and this railing, and it just won't happen for us. Then you jump over the railing. Then it's like, okay, is this worth it? We'll jump up onto the railing eventually. Here we go. We can just use our Glintstone Chris to take out the next guy that's waiting for us at the top of the stairs. He'll just do a quick flex, and by that time we've already got a beam of death his way. Now we want to head around this area here because we don't want to go in the middle there because there's too many enemies and we can't get the drop on them in that direction. You come over here, you can just go ahead and snipe this guy. What our main goal is here is we're just going to come from behind all of the enemies and get the drop on all of them. This is the best way to deal with this section. There are a lot of enemies on turrets and stuff, so we just want to go ahead and just take them out. You don't have to charge your glintstone Chris for these really small enemies, but for the bigger soldiers, we're just going to charge up completely. Yeah, for this one, you can just go ahead and just tap the button and it'll just kill them instantly. Now for this chariot guy, we're going to switch to the Misericord. And for some reason, I did not get the backstab immediately. Usually I do, but for some reason it just attacked him. But then you can just follow up with a backstab and he'll die instantly. I'm going to switch back to the Glintstone Chris to deal with these remaining 2 enemies. This guy shouldn't get alerted. There's one more enemy in this area before moving on to the next section. And there's a shield along the way that I mentioned earlier. We're not going to use it. The guy's right here. Just snipe him. You'll get the blue and white shield. Now we're going to go back to that section that we helped Uria in, but instead we're going to go to find a merchant and kill a rather annoying enemy, but we're going to kill him with one shot though. The merchant in question has the imp ashes that you can get as a gift at the start of the game. So if you didn't pick the imps at the start of the game, this is where you get them. Make sure you have your beast torch equipped because this area is chock full of wolves. So we don't want to deal with that. It's unnecessary. But near the end of this path will be your merchant. And we'll buy some more stone sword keys off of him. There's also some Trina's lilies he has. And a few cookbooks.
Well, there's been anything. How can I help?
He also has some sacrificial twigs if you so desire. And a lost ashes of war. Actually, there's only one cookbook. The rest are notes. Pick up a few Trina's lilies there, and in one that's on the ground as well. Now we're going to buff for this guy because we want him to die in one shot. He is an annoying enemy, so we're just going to take him out with one shot from our dry cannon. But if you don't buff, you won't take him out with one shot. So we make sure that we use our arrow talismans as well. We just want to guarantee that he dies. So Golden Vow and Howl of Shabiri will be more than sufficient. And that's him done. You'll get some Celestial Dew at the end here. This will allow you to have forgiveness at the Church of Vows if you anger an NPC. With that done, we're going to go head back into the Academy proper, to the Church of the Cuckoo. We've been here before, now we're going to loot the area proper. I said in the last video we were just going to skip everything. We were just trying to get through Selen's quest quickly, but now we're going to loot everything. So we want fire damage again, and we want our Nox Flowing Sword, the Beast Torch, because there are a few dogs here. We're going to keep our Sacrificial Axe. And we use the Filigreed Crest. This is just the same setup to save on FP pretty much. And some Volcano Pots. And we're going to need some Lightning Pots for later. I'm going to show you guys how to deal with the Virgins proper. I'm going to be dealing with a few of those. So, we missed a hidden illusionary wall at the beginning once we entered the Academy. But if you want to get it, all you have to do is enter the area where the 2 sorcerers are when you first enter. and go straight to the right and just hit the wall and you'll get a rune arc. But for some reason, I didn't record it. We're going to drop down here and get a smithing stone 4. We're pretty much going to do this area the same way we did last time, except there's a few extra areas that we didn't get to before. And now the best way to do this next section to avoid ambushes is to jump onto this tombstone here. And then you can get onto this higher area. This will allow you to ambush the putrid corpse from above. He's just waiting for you to walk by, but we can get the drop on him. And just get the drop on this guy as well. And just walk forward until the 2 putrid corpses start coming out of the ground, and just do one flowing form, and they'll be erased from existence. Certainly there's some great loot here, and it's a Grace Mimic. Yippee! That was worth it, huh? Let's drop down here, and we're going to do the same thing we did before, except we're not going to aggro all those other enemies. So just don't go further to the left. Just go down here and take out these 2. You won't spawn the other enemies in. Now we got to switch to our whip so that we can kill these 3 enemies here. I've tried to do it with the Nox Flowing Sword, and it doesn't seem to be consistent, so we're just going to use Giant's Braid to take these guys out. I'm going to drop down here, and remember those marionette soldiers from last time. This is kind of a tricky little area to take no damage, but the best way to do it is just to throw volcano pots, in my opinion. And sometimes you don't get the right angle, or they don't get too close to you. And there we go. Now before dropping down, make sure you get your beast torch out, because there are dogs about that will chase you down. I'm going to go behind these tombstones and get the backstab on this putrid corpse. And use Nox Flowing Sword for these 2 enemies up here. The one on the right is tanky. So you wanted to make sure you get a solid hit on him for sure. Now before we miss this area, this is a armor set down here. It's quite a fan favorite. You can actually get 3 for 1 here, but I only got 2 for 1. But here is your Carrion Knight armor. Pretty much a fan favorite. You just drop down here, get another piece of loot. And then we're just going to drop down and we'll be back where we were before. There's a dog and a putrid corpse at the entrance here. Now we're going to go towards the lift area. We didn't explore this area fully last time. Before, when we were in this area, we used it as the back door to Volcano Manor. This time we're going to get the loot that's about. And we're going to take out that virgin that's down there that will transport us to Volcano Manor. So you want to just jump off here. This is where you go to the classroom area. And we're going to take the area down like we did before when we were going to Volcano Manor, but this time we're going to drop off before the bottom. Because there's another area down here that we missed that has some ashes, some spirit ashes down here. Just look down until you see ground. First time you see ground, just get off. Now the easiest way to do this area without taking damage is to use volcano pots again, because there's quite a bit of an ambush up here. Once you get close enough, you'll have multiple enemies coming at you at once. And some of them are very erratic enemies. These winged enemies that just fly all over the screen. Like I said, easiest way is just use volcano pots. As soon as you approach this area right here, there's going to be one of those flying enemies off in the distance over here. We're just going to chunk volcano pot in his direction. Even if we don't kill him, we'll get him out of his hiding spot. And we'll weaken him a little bit. By now, some of the enemies will start rising up and you can just deal with them accordingly. But again, we want to use another volcano pot to get the other flying enemy out of his little hiding spot. You can see they're very erratic enemies, very quick. And here are your spirit ashes. Now we're going to go all the way back down where we were transported to Volcano Manor before, but this time we're going to take out the Virgin. And I believe there is a Lost Ashes of War down here as well. So what you want to do is just walk forward and start running, because the Virgin will see you and start coming at you. Your Lost Ashes of War is up here. Now we're going to buff for this guy. We're going to put on our Lightning Scorpion Charm. We're going to buff with our pot setup, basically. Plus he's in water, so he's going to take even more damage. But from my experience, lightning is pretty much the best way to take these guys out. Plus, this one's in water, so he's going to take even more damage. Once we've done all our buffs, this one got a little farther away than I'd like. Most of the time he comes at you. We're just going to run at him with Reckless Abandon here, because he's going to die so quickly, pretty much 2 throws. He won't get to us in time. Now there's some materials down here called glintstone fireflies. This is used to craft magic pots. And the good thing about crafting magic pots is this is the only ingredient that you need to craft your pots with. So much like the volcano pots where you just need the volcanic stones, this is another pot that is quite easy to craft. Now we're headed back to the classroom side of Grace. Now, right off the bat, we want to go ahead and hurry because this guy is on patrol and he will come back to us. We want to go ahead and just get rid of him. One backstab and he'll go down. Don't go any further, though. We're going to turn around and go into this room down here. Another cookbook. And a scroll. There's an illusionary wall here. Probably a good idea to put on your lantern at this point, because there's an area where you can fall to your death, and it's not the easiest area to see. There's a gap that you can fall to your death, so some Trina's lilies as well. Always good to have those on hand. Here's where you can fall to your death, so just go ahead and make a quick jump, and you'll get one of the glintstone crowns. We'll be getting a few of those in this episode. Now we're going to switch our loadout a little bit. We want to get the Crepus Vial back out. This is pretty much the same strategy we're going to use as before when we went through this area. Just going to run in, use your flowing form again. We've done this before, so you pretty much know what we're going to do. Same strategy applies. Very consistent, very effective. Again, you may alert one of the sorcerers from up top if you make too much noise. In this case, we did not alert the sentry. So that door right there we can't get into just yet, but we are going to open it from the other side. So what we do is come up here. We're only going to draw the aggro of this one sorcerer right here. Now there's an illusionary wall right here on the left. Quite a few secrets in this area, I must say. You'll get a spell, the Comet spell, and a Stone Sword key. But we're not done yet. There's a ladder up here that will take us to yet another secret area. Now once you drop down here, we're just going to take out all the living jars with our whip, because if you grab the item without killing these pots, they're all going to converge on you at once. This way, they don't have a chance. And here's the door that we can open from the other side. And that's it. This area is clear. You can kill the remaining 3 sorcerers here to get a multiplayer item, but we don't need it. But it's there if you want it. But it's not worth my time. This is where we fought the Red Wolf. We're just going to head to the left here. And take an immediate right. As soon as you get through this door, this gate here, wrap around and jump off here. There'll be a window that's broken off to the right, and get off that. Chest here with a talisman. This talisman will decrease the spell casting times. Now we're just going to get our volcano pots and our jar cannon out here. And a few more lightning pots because we have another virgin coming up. The easiest way to do this part, just snipe this guy from behind. Now the trickiest part of this section is there's a sorcerer to the left that's out of your sight. But just throwing a volcano pot will take him out. Now if you hadn't done this area before where you got the cracked pot, this is an excellent way to ambush them from above. But we've already done it, so we don't even need to kill these enemies. But you could actually snipe them all from a distance and from above here. Now we got to prepare for the virgin. We're getting our shield back out, our jellyfish shield, and we're going to use our lightning talisman again. This one's a little bit more tanky than the one that was down below because they're not really in water here. The extra damage when they're in water really does help. But we're still going to use our buffs. It's always going to approach from the same side. You can sneak up behind it if you want to. With this setup, it's only going to take 3 throws, and that's it. There is another glintstone crown nearby, so let's go ahead and pick that up. Just stick to the left here. There's a lone wanderer over here, just take him out. And the crab in question, these crystal crabs always have those glintstone crowns. Now we need our cestus out because there's a few crabs we're going to be dealing with. You don't have to kill them, but we're trying to just do everything in this area. We've already got the golden seed from before. best way to do the crab is to come from behind him and just do one ground pound and he won't be able to attack you. Since you're approaching from behind the crab, he'll never have a chance. You're basically spawn killing him. There's some Trina's lilies at the far end, which we're going to pick up. But there's unfortunately yet another crab nearby. You can kill the fodder that's nearby to get some more FP back. But here's your crab right here. Again, just get from behind him. He'll never have a chance. And those Trina's lilies will come in handy later on. The more we get, the better. Now this area is pretty much clear. Now we're going back to the rolling ball section that we faced in the last episode, but now we'll be able to find the source of the rolling ball and stop it permanently, although we won't really need to ever come back to this area. But on the left here are some crystal darts. Again, if you always stay to the right, the ball will never hit you. But let's go ahead and head up top and take out the source of those balls rolling down. We're going to need our pot set up again once we get to the top. Now we've been here before, but we didn't find this hidden section before, so just clear out the enemies. And over here, you can drop off. And there's a door you can open. This leads us back to the hall that we were in earlier. And there's another area that we're going to come from right ahead of us once we get done with this top section. We're basically going to be dropping down from the top section. But this area is a little tricky because there is a pumpkin head up here and a few sorcerers, but if you do it this way, you shouldn't have a problem. Once you get to the top of the stairs, go stealth mode and backstab this sorcerer that's got his back to you. Now we're going to stay off over here and buff. Don't get too close to them or they will hear the howl of Shiburi and come to you. If you stay far enough away, they won't get aggroed. We're going to use our physics flask for the fire damage here. The pumpkin is quite tanky, so you want to get all the buffs you can possibly get for these volcano pots. And just chunk a few in his direction, and he should die pretty quickly. Along with one of the sorcerers. The other sorcerer is behind a pillar. You can just come from behind him or use the Nox Flowing Sword, whatever you want to do. But he's pretty much unaware of your presence. Another chest over here. And this will give you another helmet. One of those scarab helmets. And this teleporter here will take you to the Church of Vows, but we don't need to go there right now. Now we're headed to the rooftops. Now the rooftops can be quite annoying for players if you don't have a ranged option, but for us, we have not only the jar cannon, but we have the glintstone crisps. So we can easily take out this area with little to no problems. So we've been here before. This is the shortcut to the boss. We're going to open up another shortcut to get up here so we don't have to deal with all these sorcerers if we were to die. You just take this guy out and open the door at the bottom of the stairs. This leads back to the courtyard. So you can bypass all of that nonsense if you want to just get back here. We're going to keep our glintstone Chris set up, but we're just going to add the arrow's reach talisman to the equation, since we're going to be using the jar cannon a few times. Now there's one more sorcerer up here. We can use this glintstone Chris to take him out. I love this weapon. It's so freaking cool. Alright. Our first objective is to jump off of this railing onto the rooftops. This area can be quite confusing because there are multiple routes, but we're going to make it easy, don't worry. There are 2 marionette soldiers wandering about here. Just take them out with the jar cannon or the glintstone Chris if you prefer. We're going to keep the jar cannon out because we have some long-range duties to attend to once we climb this ladder up here to the right. Go down the stairs initially, but don't go too far down. I'm going to stop right here, and we're just going to snipe all of the enemies from a distance. There are 2 of those flying enemies right here initially, sorcerer in the middle, and 1 more flying enemy on the right. So there are 4 enemies in total. Once you snipe them all, the area is clear. But keep your jar cannon at the ready. We're going to use it again shortly. Now we need to drop down a few times, once here and here. Before jumping to the next rooftop, stop here and snipe this enemy, because if you don't, as soon as you jump across, he's going to ambush you. So just go ahead and jump across, and now you're safe. You could go straight forward if you want to, but we'll come back later. I'm going to take this guy out. It's better to just lock onto him. As you can see, I missed twice, and I was like, you know what, screw it. Lock on is for the better. If you can lock on, it's always the better option. I made too much noise, so this guy was alerted, but usually he doesn't get alerted if you get the first shot to connect. We're just going to use the glintstone Chris here. Once you get to medium range, you don't have to use the jar cannon. We want to save ammo on the jar cannon because we can't replenish our ammo for the good bolts unless we sit at a grace. But the glintstone Chris is more than effective enough to take out these enemies. Now, you drop down here. There are 2 marionette soldiers waiting to ambush you. I could have just used the glintstone Chris, and I should have, but I used the jar cannon instead. I was really close to running out of ammo. I think I had 1 bolt left when this is all said and done. I recommend taking these 2 out with the glintstone Chris instead of using the jar cannon. Once they're dead, you can go up this long ladder, a FromSoft favorite for some reason. They could have used a lift. Why didn't they just use a lift? It would have been so much faster. But no, they have to torture us with these long, excruciating climbs up these ladders. I am telling you guys, somebody at FromSoftware has a ladder fetish. I'm telling you, it's got to be somebody needs to do an interview or something. Say, why are there so many damn long ladders in y'all's big games? Alright, once you get to the top of this long ladder, you will get another crossbow. The Full Moon crossbow. It's a magic crossbow, which is improved with the use of magic bolts. Meteor bolts. We're just going to jump off here to this roof. And again, and this is the area that we could see once we dropped down initially. Now we're going to go to the other section that we didn't go to previously. So we've got to jump across again. And instead of going left, which we did last time, we're going to turn to the right. And we're going to drop down right here. Turn around and snipe this marionette soldier. He might already be shooting at us. There is an alternate path up top if you didn't want to go this way. But I chose this way to get the loot at the bottom. It's only just one piece of loot, but I'm trying to get everything here. Once you take out the next marionette soldier, you can drop down here. There's a safe spot to drop. And there is an imbued stone sword key here. There are only 3 of these imbued sword keys in this game. I believe that's our second that we've obtained. Now we just need to head backwards. Now if you chose the alternate route, you'll be on the bottom here and have to climb this ladder. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and snipe a few of the marionette soldiers before going down this ladder. And the glintstone Chris is more than sufficient. There's another one on patrol to the right. We're just going to wait for him to come by. But we need to head down the ladder because there's some loot that we missed down there because we didn't take the alternate path. We just wrap around here. There'll be some crabs here and a somber 4. Now there's a crab right there that we could snipe with maybe a volcano pot, but we'll get it near the end of this trek through Carrier Manor. It'll be the last thing we collect pretty much on the rooftops. Now we can just drop down and go this direction. Now there are a few of those flying enemies. We're just going to take them out with our jar cannon. Area is clear. See, what happens is the game wants you to see that shiny over there right here, and as soon as you grab it, they ambush you from behind you. It's just some magic grease. Now you got to be careful not to fall down. There's a quest item here that we need for Thops quest, which we haven't even talked to this NPC yet, but we'll be able to end his quest pretty much immediately because we have the key item that we need. Drop down here to get the key item, another Glintstone Academy key. Now, before dropping down, let's snipe some enemies. We're going to snipe this guy here. Now, there are a few more sorcerers down there. You don't want to drop down yet. I used some volcano pots to take this guy out. He'll just start walking back and forth. And for this guy, you can pretty much get a shot on him. I think I missed the first one, but you can either throw a volcano pot or snipe him. Again, locking on us for the best. Now this area is pretty much clear except for one more enemy, and we're not taking any chances because he has an exploding crossbow, and if he hits you with it, it's going to cause a great deal of damage. Might not even kill us at our vigor level, so we're going to buff before using our jar cannon. We're actually going to go overkill and use both of the arrow talismans because I believe we only have one shot left in our jar cannon. Yep, one bolt left, so we're going to make the most of it here. One shot should take him out with the buffs. And you'll get a staff here. We're pretty much done with Carrier Manor. We have a glintstone crown to obtain, and then we're pretty much just going to go ahead and finish Thops quest. Here is the crab that we saw earlier. Once we have this crown, we're pretty much done. Let's go back to Liurnia of the Lakes, the lake-facing cliffs, site of grace, and begin Thops quest. He's in the Church of Aerith shortly after you get to this grace. We went to this church in an earlier video, but we did not talk to the NPC. He'll ask you for 10 runes.
not true. My name presumably.
We're just going to buy all his sorcery, because why not?
Thank you for learning.
Continue exhausting all of his dialogue
Apology, I'm afraid. All right, I can tell you. You've seen that.
until he mentions that you need to find a key, and if you could find a spare for him, he'd appreciate it.
Why not without one? And you'll never. And if you want, you can. I know it, but still. Are you certain you're willing to hire? Thank you. Now I can go to resume myself.
He'll be overjoyed and give you a very important gesture. Once you get the gesture and you've exhausted all of his dialogue, you need to head back to the schoolroom side of Grace. And unfortunately for Thops, he has met his demise, as FromSoft loves to do. Just go outside, wrap around, and grab his bell bearing and a Thops barrier spell. Now to get the Ash of War, we need to head back to the Church of Aerith again and take out the scarab that was in his spot. Thops barrier is a very good spell, and Ash of War. It will deflect magic spells. Now that that is complete, we're going to go back to Altus Plateau. We're going to go to the Erdtree Grazing Hill side of Grace, and then we're going to mark a spot on the map over here. That is a Grace there, and then we need to follow that path into this section right here. There's a dirt road that leads into that area. We need an item in that area to progress Seluvis' quest, and we want to have it right now so that we can finish the quest immediately. We already know we need the item, so we're just going to go ahead and grab it so we can end Seluvis' quest as fast as possible. We'll also begin Ranni's quest, and we'll continue that in the next episode, and I believe we will finish it in the next episode as well. And here's your site of grace. We'll be coming back to Altus Plateau to continue another NPC quest later on, but we haven't even started that quest yet. But you need to find the dirt road here. It leads into the mountains. There's a bunch of sacramental buds here, along with the key item that we need called the Amber Starlight. The Amber Starlight shard will allow us to finish Seluvis' quest. But I can't help myself. We want to get all the sacramental buds, but there are some squid about. They're a minor nuisance. Amber Starlight, very important. Once we have that, we just got to get out of the enemy's aggro range so we can use our map again. And we need to go back to Caria Manor where we fought the boss. And from here we can make our way to Ranni's Rise. That's our next start, Ranni's quest. We can't get to Seluvis without starting Ranni's quest, so we need to get that started. And that involves us going back to Round Table Hold once we exhaust Ranni's dialogue. This Rise right here, we cannot access yet. We'll do that in the next episode, probably. Pretty sure we're going to do Ranni's quest in the next episode. This drop down. You need to find your way towards this rise here. Seluvis' rise is at the bottom, but we have to make our way to Ranni's Rise first. Avoid the dragon for now. It's not even worth fighting him because you can't kill him. He will always retreat to the next section, which we can't get to until we go through a lot of areas. So it's just a waste of time, basically. Some more Trina's lilies about. Now, depending on how far you've progressed into the game, your interaction with Ranni might be different than what we're about to receive here. Because we've progressed Roger's quest up to the point where we've done the Black Knives quest and he's examined the black knife fingerprint. So he knows that Ranni is the true murderer behind Godwin. So we can just have one dialogue option with her now because we've progressed Roger's quest line up to this point. But if you haven't done that, you might have a different interaction with Ranni here. And we're only going to be able to speak to 2 of the illusions once we agree to be in her service because we've progressed Blythe's quest to a point as well.
Oh, again we cross paths. I believe it pleaseth Atani. I have no... I see. Indeed, I stole it. I did it. But sadly, I have slain, and it is a... And why? I perform it all the same. The curse mark now. The curse mark now.
Once we've exhausted her dialogue, we need to go back to Round Table Hold and talk to Roger. He will suggest that we get into her good graces by becoming a servant. So we need to do that.
Always good, son. I see. When Ranni, but then perhaps if you forgive the blood, how would you? The location, the best way to know you've got not only are you.
So now we're going to go back to Ranni and request to be in her service.
Curse mark now. Oh, thou wouldst afford in. Very well. There's nothing wrong. What's more, I am cute. I'll allow it. And good. Good. Art thou it left to go there to.
Now we need to go back downstairs and talk to E.G. and Seluvis. Blythe and our progression of our storyline will not be down here. But we can speak to E.G. right here.
Oh, you've defeated Grand again, Lucaria and I welcome. Let us together.
And then we'll talk to Seluvis.
I see. Yes, I am. I don't know what it is, but since I ask. I resign. Come and pay me, should you, if it were up to me, but who am I?
Once you've exhausted Seluvis' dialogue, you cannot progress any further until you sit at a site of grace, because these interactions with these illusions is kind of like being locked out, like if you were in a teleporter trap. So you cannot progress any further until you sit at a site of grace. Now we can progress to Seluvis' tower. Again, we just want to avoid the dragon. It's not worth our time. We can only fight this dragon once. And it's not for a while, so there really is no point. too bad they didn't give us a site of grace near Seluvis's rise, because now we have to go from Ranni's rise to here every time. It's kind of annoying. But we'll exhaust his dialogue.
Perhaps I'd like you to find you. Good. Now I shall have
He'll give us a potion.
Nefarious.
Now, this potion has consequences. He wants you to give it to Nefeli, but we've already finished Nefeli's quest. So that's not an option for us anyway. But we could give it to Dung Eater once we progress his quest line, which we have. But we don't want to do that either. We want to keep all options for endings open, so let's go ahead and just give it to Gideon. Giving it to Gideon will cause no harm to anyone. And will keep all of your ending options open. But if you want the Dung Eater puppet or the Nefeli puppet, then you would have to give it to the respected persons. So back at Ranni's rise, we need to get back to Seluvis. We'll tell him that we gave Nefeli the potion, and then we'll also have a dialogue option about his secret chambers, and he will then give us a puppet for free. But then we need to progress his questline further by getting another puppet. You can do this in two ways. You can talk to another NPC in Carrion Manor, or you can just quit out a few times and get the next dialogue option to get in his puppet shop, and that's what we're going to do.
Ah, well done. Very well. Knowledge, I doubt, if you put it. You wish to... Well?
We can just go ahead and buy some sorceries as well.
You break into a man's private chambers, rooting about his no fish. Fine, and you trick me. I believe that makes you yearn for a... Well, but perhaps now.
Just pick a puppet.
So, it's kind of...
Exhaust his dialogue about Nefeli, and then we'll have to quit out a few times. We need access to his puppet shop, and the only way to do that is quitting out a few times. I apologize for not editing the rest of this out. I had some trouble with the rendering, and I had to redo some sections of this video, so it was kind of annoying. I just wanted to keep everything as is, so I wouldn't mess up it again. I don't know what happened with the first rendering.
Begging for...
As you can see, I had to quit out again. Now I'll have access to his puppet shop.
What's that?
As long as you have 3 starlight shards, you'll be able to purchase one. This is why I was saying earlier that we needed 3.
Oh, yes. You're proving I've
Once we've bought a puppet from him, we'll be able to get a new dialogue option about the scheme.
seed will print which I applied to. I knew you just then. I
Accept the quest and just go ahead and give him the Amber Starlight. We've already got it.
to think. Oh, yes, please.
We don't need to progress his storyline any further once we get this talisman, because we don't want to mess with Ranni. He'll want us to give the potion to Ranni, and we're not going to do that. So that's the end of his quest. I'll see you guys in the next one.